And yeah, welcome to the GitLab Hackathon Ask Me Anything session. We have a brief agenda and a few guests who are either want to participate in the hackathon or want to explain things for those who are going to participate. I had an item in agenda for my side to tell a bit about open source philosophy, and I'm not a philosopher. I want just to mention HashiCorp, who are building entire infrastructure. Everything is open source tools, and any cloud application uses it, Terraform, to deploy something, other tools to make it happen, and mention recently IP Mastodon, who are also open core, open source, and community driven, community supported. The links are in notes. Please check notes and explore this universe if you want. And GitLab, open core company who are doing great things for DevSecOps entire life cycle, and are open source with free features available for just entirely everyone, and with pretty great business model where everything is going on pretty well for a decade, I'd say. That's it from my side. Any questions, maybe? Then I'm giving word to you, Lee, just to talk, to explain, and to introduce a hackathon.
I will do my best. I added a link to the document. It's the first time that I've run the hackathon, so I'm certainly new, so go easy on me. But I participated, and that was very much how I got into the kind of GitLab as a product, and eventually the company itself through the hackathon. I think I started probably about 3 or 4 years ago, intrigued by what the hackathon was. And yeah, that's kind of got me learning more and more about the product. I joined the GitLab core team maybe 3 years ago, and then the contributor success team just over 6 months ago now. So our team's goal is to make contributors' lives as easy as possible, and to help try and reach the goal of 1,000 unique monthly community contributors. So we've got lots of exciting stuff that we've been working on to try and make that easier. The hackathon itself, it does evolve. We've tried to keep this one nice and simple because it's my first one. I don't want any crazy, bonus points for front end or back end, or want to exclude anything like specifically docs or this or that. We just want to keep it as simple as possible. And it's a week long, starting on Sunday the 23rd of April and finishing on I guess it will be Sunday the 30th, or Saturday essentially, the end of the day. So it allows some people to contribute that want to contribute during the week. Maybe they can contribute as part of their job. Or some people who maybe can't or don't want to contribute as part of their job, that actually want to do it at the weekend as kind of some personal activity, so to speak. We have a lot of documentation around contributing, but it can be daunting. So we're there on Discord to help out. There's community members, plenty of community members there to help out as well. And some links from the link that I shared to some good issues, maybe to kind of consider getting started. So depending on whether you're interested in front end or back end, front end mainly being JavaScript, Vue.js, back end maybe mainly being Ruby on Rails. And then we've got quite a few satellite projects that are Golang based. So depending on your kind of skill set and what you want to pick up. So yeah, I hope that's a reasonable introduction.
Hey, thank you. So then let's move forward to Q&A session, and I'll verbalize questions for those who are not on the call, and then we can add anything else. The timing is pretty flexible, at least for me. In case you have strict constraints, mention that, and we will adjust and move with your questions beforehand. Okay, my question, what is GitLab core team and why?
Excellent question. As is always the case, we try at GitLab to make sure everything is documented. So there's a link there that will give you a reasonable explanation. Essentially, I don't want to call them contributors necessarily, although they primarily are, but kind of ambassadors that have been collaborating with GitLab and the community for a reasonable period of time, and kind of shown that they kind of live the GitLab values. So they're invited to join the core team. I'm not overly familiar with the concept, but believe it is an industry concept. I think Vue.js have a core team. I imagine Ruby on Rails have a core team. So it might be that you can tell me more about what the kind of traditional core team roles and responsibilities are. But essentially, it's to kind of help GitLab be accountable for their kind of values and uphold their values. But they're kind of that nice intermediary between the community and GitLab team members. So, you know, it can be quite hard working for a company to kind of see everything from the perspective of an outsider or a community member. So it's really great to have the core team who are kind of have a little bit more insight. They're part of our Slack server, and they have developer access to the projects. So it kind of means that they can also help out with things like labeling issues, assigning issues, labeling merge requests, assigning reviewers, those kind of things.
Yay, thank you for this pretty detailed explanations and for the note in the notes. The next question from admin is about GitLab Hackathon benefits, and especially if the swag from community store listed on the page is available for Ukraine.
So I checked, and the company that provide the swag don't ship to the Ukraine, but it looks like you have an awesome solution for that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I am adding this as a to-do to my to-do list in my to-do list application, in my Markdown-based to-do list applications library. And I'll share the details in the notes and through other channels. The workarounds are always possible. Great. And another item from admin, can I mention hackathon contribution in my CV?
Absolutely, and we would definitely encourage you to do so. You know, ultimately, we would encourage anyone and everyone to talk about GitLab. So, and yeah, I think that it's everyone has a different kind of view and reason for contributing, but when I've been responsible in the past for interviewing candidates for jobs, especially graduates that maybe haven't got what it takes for the role I was interviewing, I've always recommended that they consider contributing to GitLab as a way to actually get some essentially commercial, some real life experience. And I kind of say that I'm almost 100% sure that someone that contributes to GitLab as kind of a student or whatever you want to call it will then be able to land a job based on what they learn there. So I actively encourage it in that scenario, but for anyone else, like ultimately it's a kind of volunteer open source work is something that's really great to do. So yeah, I recommend it.
Yay, thank you. Another question from my side. What is the best place to ask questions and share insights during the hackathon and as a community contributor during the non-hackathon weeks as well?
So Discord is definitely the right place. I've shared a link there. We used to use Gitter, but it never hugely took off. The Discord server was started by a community member 9 months, a year or so ago, and it's very naturally, organically grown. So it shows that there must be, whether it's an industry standard or it's just a good platform that people enjoy using. So we've kind of decommissioned the old Gitter channels and are now using Discord primarily. There's a contribute channel that I would recommend. There was a separate hackathon channel, but I recently kind of archived that. I could possibly bring it back if we want to, but the way I see it is that contributors will be in the contribute channel. So a hackathon contribution is really no different to a normal everyday contribution. And also we've got the right people there, both team members and community members, to be able to help out.
Great. And one item from my side. First contribution, ask me anything channel. Does it make sense? Or people usually ask any questions and contribute?
I'll ask the question. It's definitely something we'll consider, especially if you and others are kind of say that it would be beneficial. I would encourage everyone to use the main contribute channel. It should be welcoming, our code of conduct and our ethos, that we shouldn't and won't, belittle anyone or kind of, we expect people of all kind of experience. Someone that's never used Git before, spinning up GDK for the first time to those who are kind of experts and really putting us on our toes and kind of with crazy complex Ruby and Vue.js queries that I have no idea how to solve. So if we can use the existing channel, great. But if there's definitely kind of demand for a slightly safer space for newcomers, then we'll take that on board, and I'm sure we can create a new channel.
Hey. Since we have pretty small round today, a question to Alexei and you, Margarita. Do you use Discord? Do you enjoy it?
As for me, I don't use. I prefer Slack in my previous project and maybe now, but it can be a good experience to use new messenger for speaking.
I used it a few times and not for software development. It was like some other activities, and I haven't investigated all all features of this software. So also it for me can be some new experience.
As for my, please go.
It looks very similar to Slack, so I think it will be good.
Yeah, as for my experience, I didn't use it. I am not a gamer person where Discord somehow initiated. And when I joined some projects on Patreon or pay for Obsidian paid subscription, communities are offering me to join their servers. And I used to have these things, and GitLab naturally fits into that ecosystem for me. And then question from my side, and I'll probably answer it as I am the host today. Just to mention, the question is, I have a full-time contract and it states some cumbersome legal things regarding intellectual property. Would my employer be able to grab my contributions from the GitLab code base somehow? And my answer is, this is not the case. GitLab has 10 years of history, and it was not a problem as per my current experience at all. Personally, I had these kind of contracts pretty many times. Usually, companies do not do this, and if you are really worried, please ask your manager, ask your team lead, and explain the situation. That will be pretty enough. And yes, people are contributing to open source, and even as part of their work from time to time, which is also great. And for the hackathon, we are the community members who are using their personal time and personal accounts, and this is not affiliated with employers in any way. I am aware about. But if this is a question for you, please ask your supervisor. The next item is from admin again, and it sounds, Lee, please add your note as well.
7 or 8. So, okay, so wanting to start a new business, and why would joining the hackathon be beneficial? So the thing that I love, and this is great because I actually own a business as well, and I've got a few blogs that I'll share some links that I did in collaboration with GitLab before I joined the company, and it's the kind of the model, mainly the handbook first and docs first approach is one of the things that I love, but there's lots of things that I've picked up along the years. So the company that I own, software company, and they used to have 20 different systems, you know, a NuGet repository system, a Maven Nexus repository system, a issue tracking system, a subversion, you know, hundreds of different. And they started to use GitLab for one thing and slowly realized it was capable of all these other things, and started, you know, decommissioning one system after another and migrating everything onto GitLab. There was also, it's a very small company, so the documentation was poor to non-existent. And after kind of seeing the GitLab approach to things, like everything maybe I made a contribution and somebody said, oh, we don't tend to take this approach, we do this instead, and they would link to the documentation where it states their kind of best practice, their design principles, their approach, the reasons. And this is something that's kind of really kind of stuck with me, and that I've kind of adopted a lot of these processes for my company. It's just a great way of working, you know, this kind of transparent and open and docs first approach. So in the past, I've always seen the opposite. You know, you build something and then you maybe think about documenting it afterwards, or maybe when somebody starts asking you questions a year after you built it and you can't remember how it works or why you did this, or you know, you start to learn the hard way. And I think that GitLab have done all this kind of hard work, and they're sharing it with everyone to be like, hey, you know, if you want to use our kind of approach, feel free to. Here are our values, and here's all of our documentation, and here's our handbook, and crack on. So yeah, I think that you can learn so much from that kind of approach. Again, exactly the same thing. Website, intranet, knowledge base, everything used to, the company that I own used to use SharePoint, and they've moved over to Hugo on GitLab Pages. So it's now, you know, managed in GitLab via merge requests. Yeah, there's so many things as a kind of startup that you could definitely learn from GitLab. So yeah, I think that joining the hackathon and making some connections at GitLab and sort of understanding that their approach to code review, again, if it's a tech company and there's going to be code involved, or some of the infrastructure as code, the Terraform type projects and GitLab charts and that kind of thing, all of it's going to be super relevant and educational, I should say, I guess, for where you may end up going with that company.
Okay. Was it hard to educate your colleagues about the GitLab documentation first and all these engineering like details?
I don't think it was too challenging. I think that the bad thing that was also a good thing was that the issues had already been, like, it was the hard way of learning, you know. How did that thing that we built 3 years ago work? I don't remember. Okay, so we've got to kind of look back at the source code and basically reverse engineer it to figure it out. So I think we'd already seen the challenges that come with not doing it, but maybe didn't know the best way to do it. So if we had done documentation in the past, it was like Word documents. And as you know full well, you know, Word document, it doesn't really fit with version control and source control. It's a binary file. You know, you can't see, if you did use and modify the Word file in a commit, you wouldn't be able to see a diff. Doing a code review or a sort of technical writing documentation review would be next to impossible. So yeah, I think that they've embraced it really well. There's a lot of interesting conversation that's come up because I think technical writing and documentation is quite it's huge. So there's a lot to kind of try, and they're nowhere near the kind of level that GitLab are at now, where they've got this real strong, and I understand about using active voice and forget what you call it now, but a certain tense, like I think it's present tense that they use, and the kind of language rules, but at least the docs first approach is there. So any kind of new features that are being added to a product, the kind of rules are in place to ensure that, okay, you're making a code change, you should be making a docs change at the same time as part of the same MR. And yeah, I think everyone understands the benefit and is already kind of being able to see those benefits. So yeah, it's great.
Wow, thank you. Any risks you faced while doing this everything with GitLab?
I mean, I guess there is an inherent risk with putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, and using a single platform for almost, if not everything. But that risk is hugely mitigated by the fact that it's an open source, open core platform. So, you know, there's self-hosted instance that you could, you know, if something suddenly happened and changed the business model, and GitLab.com, I suspect there's certain things in place for protection. But if all of a sudden, oh, it doesn't exist anymore, then, you know, you can still use the most recent release in a self-hosted instance and you're all good. They can't really pull it away and it vanish and, you know, never to be seen again. The source code is out there, it's replicated, everyone has it, or not everyone has it, a lot of people have it locally as well. So I think that it would be different if it was a free closed source product. That putting all your eggs in that basket might be more of a concern. But yeah, and on top of that, the kind of ability, if it doesn't do exactly what you want it to do, to be like, well, I'll start an issue, I'll start a conversation, and I'm willing to contribute that feature and make it do this extra thing. So we don't need to buy this extra piece of software or subscribe to this extra platform.
Wow, thank you. Giving word to you, Margarita.
Okay, thank you. Lee, maybe I missed something, but what is your role on the project? Am I right to understand that you're like a project coordinator or like organizer of the team?
Yeah, so my role at GitLab is as a full stack engineer, but as part of the contributor success team. So essentially to help our contributors to provide the tooling, to make the journey and the experience as good as possible, to ensure that our processes internally are as good as they can be. But essentially to get more contributors, make sure they want to keep coming back. And yeah, as part of that role, I have, I'm going to say, inherited or taken on board or signed up to run these hackathons. So yeah, this is the first one I'm running, but because I've been participating myself in the past, I'm pretty close to the process. So again, open for feedback from that point of view as well, for things that we might do better or different in the future with these hackathons. I ran an event at the beginning of February, a sort of in-person hackathon, I'd almost call it. And that's something that I'd love to do more of going forwards, in-person events. I miss that. I think that, you know, people with their heads together with maybe beer and a pizza can be very productive. But yeah, open to suggestions. But essentially, I'm here to help everyone that's participating in the hackathon. Okay, so in case getting some technical or organization question, it can be dedicated to you directly, yeah? Yeah, I mean, I would encourage to reach out generically on Discord and just with here's my problem, can anyone help? But certainly if you don't get a response, you can ping me kind of directly on that. But you know, there will be quite a large number of contributors, and you know, I'd feel bad if I kind of missed one out. So initially just reach out, and the chances are I'll be the one to maybe reply anyway. But you know, we've got plenty of team members and community members on the Discord, or willing to help out. But yeah, you're welcome to message me directly as well.
And maybe one more question from my side about algorithm of contribution. For example, I take some issue in which I would like to have some work. Should I notify somebody in a channel that I working under this one?
Yeah, so either adding a note to the issue itself, or in Discord, either of those. So a team member or member of the core team can hop on and assign that issue to you. It just gives a bit of visibility to prevent maybe two people trying to pick up the same issue at the same time. Although we are quite keen to, what's the word, encourage more collaboration moving forwards. So our kind of attribution model at the moment isn't perfect from that perspective. It only really attributes the merge request to the author. But going forwards, we want to ensure that kind of co-authors, anyone that pushes a commit to a merge request will also be attributed, and also people that review. So we have some great community members that are doing a real good job kind of reviewing contributions, not just making the contributions themselves, but reviewing them. And we want to kind of ensure that we're recognizing all of that. So we would like to encourage at some point more kind of collaboration. Maybe you want to work on something that needs front end and back end, but maybe you're a back end developer. So, you know, you get a colleague or a friend or another community member that works on the front end side, and you kind of collaborate on that. But yeah, ping on the issue itself that you're looking to work on, or on Discord, and someone will assign it to you. And obviously, if any additional help's needed in terms of a kind of implementation plan, any pointers as to where you might find the code that needs to be kind of added, modified to get started, we can help.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And in our general project, we have, for example, business analytic, which can justify whether it is a bug or like a feature. So in case of such a question, to whom I can ask it?
So is that if you've identified something new, or if you're looking at an issue that's already been created to understand whether that's a bug or a feature?
I can just ask in the Discord channel, yeah? Maybe somebody can.
Yeah. I mean, the issues generally will all already be identified. There's a type label. So the type can either be maintenance, bug, or feature. So every issue should have those labels. And if they don't, they kind of need triaging. So you can certainly help us to do so.
Okay, thank you. Maybe it's all from my side.
A small note from my side, GitLab is all about asynchronous collaboration. So feel free to log an issue, maybe search for the keywords and check if such item already exists. The search functionality is pretty great. And the main rule of thumb, start from the issue. So document your findings, post it to the GitLab, maybe even use some template available for GitLab.com repository. They are pretty detailed and interesting. And not so necessary. And then post a link to the Discord and start the discussion in that issue asynchronously with comments. So team members can join, maybe triage it, and so on. There is no need to ask about doing something before doing it. Just do.
Okay, clear, thank you.
Okay, these are all the questions we had in our notes. We are a bit over time, but let's still continue. Maybe something we want to be on the recording for our audience, possible audience. I see.
I've got nothing to add if that's what you're asking.
Okay, so
Yes.
then
I have some small question. Like we have this list of issues on Hackathon page. Can we take some like other issues and which are already present on GitLab?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to get team members to curate lists as well as possible. So to find issues that they think would be suitable for newcomers as well as existing contributors. The more we can make sure that it's very easy to look at an issue as a regular contributor or a team member and think, oh, that's a quick and simple fix. But if you're new to the project, the code base, that might not be the case. So yeah, we do ask for team members to try and curate a nice list, but at the same time, there's no exclusivity on that. You're welcome to create your own issue and have a little conversation about something that you maybe want to add or change that an existing issue doesn't exist, or search for or find, or even if you've got old issues that created some time ago, you can pick anything up. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll wait for 5 seconds. If no questions, I'll stop the recording.